Gwendolyn, my name is Sam, and thanks for checking out this video. Make sure to hit the subscribe button down below and give the video a thumbs up. Also make sure that right now until next Friday, I think or so, I'm picking winners on March 31st. I'm running a giveaway to say yay for 400 subscribers. So make sure to check out my Instagram below, and that's where you go enter. I'll also link the video where I kind of explain everything down there as well. So make sure to enter that because free books. So this week I managed to finish a total of 6 books, and I also DNF'd 2 others. So let's just get started. I started off this week, sadly, with the DNF. I did not get many pages in on Speakeasy by ELISA Smith, I believe it was. I think I got to page 53 or so, and I DNF'd it. I just didn't like the writing. It seemed very fan-fiction-y, almost kind of writing, almost a bit self-publish-y, especially for historical fiction. Don't tell me things that are happening, show me. And when you're doing 2 different historical timelines, you need to make it very distinctly clear at the beginning of when you're switching all these places that they are different. And I found that that wasn't done quite well, or well enough as to what I would have hoped for, so I just kept getting distracted and being like, wait, where are we? What are we doing? And so I just ended up DNFing it, unfortunately. Then I finished my reread for Gemini by Amie, Kaufman, and Kristoff, so I am ready now. My copy of Obsidio is actually in the mail right now. So hopefully I'll get it next week, and I plan on reading that, maybe squeezing it into my March TBR, depending on when it gets here. If not, I'll read it at the very beginning of April. I'm so excited about this. If you don't know what Gemini is, this is the second book in the Illuminate File series. If you haven't read it, I would absolutely recommend you. And also, this is a series that it is very, very, very much enhanced by the audiobook. So I would very recommend getting a physical copy, whether that's buying one or getting for the library, and then listening to the audiobook. It is a full cast, a full radio show. There's spaceship noises going on in the background. Everyone has very distinctive voices. They did an amazing job on that audiobook, and I wish they do more audiobooks like that, because it's so fantastically done, and I don't hear people talk enough about those audiobooks. So definitely. And part of the reason why you may also want to use that is because it is told through government redacted documents and text messages and IMs and tons of different text formats. And sometimes, I know quite a few people went into it and were like, oh, I don't think I'm going to like it because that's kind of off-putting. And like every single person I know, except for like one person, and I don't trust those person's book opinions, loves this book series. It is fast-paced the whole way through. There's so many twists and turns. There's epidemics. There's like likable characters and dislikable characters and lots of gray characters. And like, it's just like a kind of survivalist zombie space opera. And there's like time jump dimension. There's a race going on. There's an evil corporation, which reminds me a lot of the corporation in Ready Player One, almost just set in space, and like there's just so much going on. And at the very, very end, we meet some of our wonderful characters that I was heartbroken when Illuminate, the first book, ended, and then this started with different characters, and I was so sad. I was like, where's Katie and Ezra? But they come back. So definitely pick this series up and give it a go. It's amazing. 5 out of 5 stars again. I still was like panting the whole way through, even though I knew it was going to happen. Then I picked up Enter 3 Witches by Caroline B. Cooney. This is a Macbeth. It's labeled as a retelling in a lot of different places, but I don't know that I would really consider it a retelling. I really did like the format of this book, actually, because it's got like Act 1, Scene 1, and then kind of like lines and from the Shakespeare play and all that kind of stuff. And it was actually a pretty enjoyable, really quick read that I actually will probably reread in the future. However, I just find that it wasn't distinctively different enough, and the author didn't do enough with it to put her own twist on it to really classify it as a retelling. But nonetheless, I actually pretty much really enjoyed this. I couldn't help but laughing at several parts. It's just the logic of the Shakespeare play itself, of like, someone is murdered, and then one guy the next day, everyone's like, well, who did it? Who did it? Who did it? Maybe it was the servant. Maybe it was this guy. And then one dude is like, well, all of a sudden he like reappears and he's like, I just went and killed a bunch of servants. And they're like, what? We don't know that they did. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. I was just angry. And they're like, okay, but don't do it again. That's the end of the discussion. I couldn't help but laugh. Same thing happened this week when I watched Much Ado About Nothing, which I'll explain later on, but yeah, I think I ended up giving this a 3 stars out of 5 stars. It's pretty enjoyable if you like Shakespeare. This might be a good one to give a go. I also reread A Court of Mist and Fury this week by Sarah J. Maas. This is the second book in the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. Part of my 2018 goals was to reread the first 3 books in preparation for A Court of Frost and Starlight coming out, which comes out in May, I believe. I remember starting this book the first time and being like, how the heck are you going to make me Team Reese? That's not even humanly possible after ACOTAR. Man, did I eat those words. This is definitely my favorite of the 3 books so far. Despite the size, every single time, I just run through it, and I started the book being like, all right, let's get rid of Tamlin. I'm ready to get rid of him now because it is a reread, and just counting down the pages to chapter 55. And I loved it. I love the ending of this book, seriously. This book is a massive, like, the definition of book hangover. I don't think I know a single person who read this and liked it and didn't feel hungover after it. So, yeah. Love getting to know the Night Court and the new crew, and seeing Feyre, like, grow and change, and then seeing, like, Reese be like, well, I'm not your, like, owner. You can do whatever you want. And then seeing her be like, oh, yeah, what Tamlin did make sense. All that kind of stuff. Love that. And because of the massive book hangoverness that this book always gives you, even on rereads, I immediately picked up A Court of Wings and Ruin. I was going to put this in my April TBR, but I just couldn't wait. I don't like waiting. I only had to wait like 3-4 days between reading Mist and Fury and then this book coming out, and it was the longest 3 days, whatever it was, of my known life, okay? Like, I couldn't wait. So I reread it in, like, I think less than 24 hours. I definitely like Mist and Fury, and then Wings and Ruin, and then Thorns and Roses, in that order, but they're all just so good and so addictive, and I'm so excited after, like, the ending of this. I want to know what other POVs we're going to get. Obviously, if Frost and Starlight doesn't have a wall scene, I'm going to be angry. And if you've read Mist and Fury, then you know what I'm talking about. I also really hope we get the POV of one of the villains. I'm kind of obsessed with the Bone Carver for some reason. I would just love to know more about them and, like, maybe how they got into the jail, why they're in the jail. There's just so much unknown about them that that we find out that, like, they just pre-exist everything we know and have. So we don't know. And I was like, I just want to know what the story behind them is. So maybe we'll get it. I don't know. But nonetheless, super addictive series, massive hangovers, and total trash for mass. Then I read the arc that I got, The Marvelous Adventures of Gwendolyn Gray by B.A. Williamson, I believe the author is. This is coming at the beginning of May. I will put the official titles here because I'm just totally spacing on it. It is such an adorable, technically it's like a middle grade YA crossover, but I would definitely not really classify it as a YA. It's much more middle grade than anything else. But our main character, Gwendolyn Gray, lives in this world where everything is black, white, and gray. You don't have an imagination. You just live by the status quo. And if you try and ruffle any feathers, that is very frowned upon. And naturally, our main character, as you can tell from the book cover, looks very Brave-esque. She's got bright, crazy red hair, and she doesn't listen to her mom, and she has this crazy, wild imagination. And because of that imagination and just her personality, she hasn't been, drinking the Kool-Aid in that kind of world. And she starts seeing people disappear when they don't fit into the status quo. And she goes on this wild, crazy adventure and meets a brother-sister duo that help her, and she meets a space pirate, and it's all about this book and this gem and her saving everything and having all these powers. And she is just an adorable, likable character. She grows so much. You can't help but root for her and want to protect her at every turn. She's just, like, such a good person at heart, and she's been bullied at school, and, her parents aren't really totally there to support her. They're not bad parents, they just don't seem to get it, and they have drunk the Kool-Aid. So I just loved all the creativity in the world and the flying pirates and, like, getting to meet all these different characters. It is a series, I will say that. It is not classified on Goodreads at the moment as a series, but the author has already said in one of the comments on someone's review that book 2 has been written and it's like being edited or something like that. This is also one of the really nice books that I love. The cover is beautiful on its own, but the cover does a really excellent job of showing what exactly the book entails. I hate deceptive covers where you pick it up and then you read and you're like, what the heck does this have to do with it? This nails it, perfect. It's exactly what the cover should be, and does an amazing job of representing the book. My only complaint is the romance, I don't think was it's not super cheesy romance, and I almost don't know if it was supposed to be if you hit the end, if the romance was supposed to be a romance, or if it was supposed to be they're you, so you love yourself, and that won't make sense until you've read it, but that's there. And I just feel like the villainy Mr. 5 and Mr. 6 could have been developed a little bit more. They just seemed like an ominous, those are the villains kind of thing. And overall, I found the pacing was just a little off in some points. There were certain parts where I was like, oh, this is definitely a climax scene. And I got there and it was like you sat at the top of the roller coaster and you just kept waiting and waiting and nothing dropped. And you're like, oh, okay, no, we just went back down here. So that was really my only complaints. Overall, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. I'm definitely going to pick up a copy for my libraries. It's definitely a fun, cute middle grade. And I think the lessons overall are really, really good. And male or female, I think they'll be able to relate to the main female character. Then I did a read of Much Ado About Nothing. I have the play, and I followed along with the 1993 movie with Keanu Reeves in it. And, like, Professor Umbridge. Ugh. And Denzel Washington, and Dr. Wilson from House, and there's so many different people in that movie. But this is actually my favorite Shakespeare play, and I never even thought about it until as I was reading this and watching the movie, and then got to the end, I was like, the plot of this is actually pretty messed up. However, it is Shakespeare in a different time. But in the off chance you don't know anything about Much Ado About Nothing, our main character, Beatrix, well, one of the main characters, Beatrice and Benedict, are constantly conflicting. They're bantering, they're bickering, they hate each other. However, they're basically the same person, just one's a male, one's a female, and they just seem to hate each other for it. And then we have Hero, who is in love with one of the kind of like soldiers that's hanging out at the villa that they live at. And the very beginning, those two, Hero and the gentleman, get engaged. And then Keanu Reeves, the villain, for I don't even remember what the reason is, just starts like messing with everyone because he wants to, and then makes it look like Hero was cheating on him, like actually cheating, that 15-year-old, like hooking up with other dudes. So then in response, as a grown adult you don't cancel your wedding or talk to her. He embarrasses her at her wedding, and then she dies of, like, guilt. And then the entire thing is, like, how to trick him and make him, like, feel bad about it. It's just so, just really, as you think about it, it's kind of a messed up plot. But nonetheless, I thoroughly enjoy it. I think my real love of it is how Benedict and Beatrix are tricked into falling in love, and the banter, and like how they kind of like give themselves up. I also love like the film of like Professor Lockhart. It's just, I feel like, you know, you should watch Harry Potter and then see how Harry Potter ends with him in it, and then you watch this, and it almost kind of redeems him, even though they're like decades apart. But nonetheless, I thoroughly love this play, enjoy it, despite the plot of it being pretty messed up nowadays. And if you haven't read it, I know Shakespeare can be off-putting, but I would definitely recommend the 1993 film. I know there's also a Joss Whedon filmed one in like 2005 or something like that. I haven't watched it, but I heard it's pretty good too. And the last book that I attempted this week was Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings. Yeah, I think I DNF'd this at page 224. The writing is super, super cringy, and I got like halfway through. But like once I got to like page 120, I went and watched William and Kate, the Lifetime movie, like the cheeseball fluff of this, and this was still worse. There's tons of reviews about this book online, and honestly, I just agree with basically what everyone is saying. The writing is awkward and uncomfortable. The crew and the concept, I like the concept of it. It was just not applied well. I didn't feel like any of the, I didn't get all the way through, but the characters really weren't fleshed out. And I also knew from the reviews that the first half is like the better half of it. So when I was like dragging, I was like, oh god, I definitely can't get through the rest of this book. I'm honestly would be kind of curious to read what the non-edited, like the original like manuscript would be, because like if this is like the fixed up-ish version, I just don't like the romance. I didn't like the characters. The writing was cringy and uncomfortable for like the entire part of it. And especially just because you're a space opera and this is YA, you are automatically going to be compared to things like Illuminate. This is not even remotely comparable to Illuminate, which I feel like also kind of took away from some of my liking and motivation to finish it. But so those are all of the books that I read this week. Let me know in the comment section down below if you've read any of these, what you thought, what you read this week. Did you have a good or bad reading week? Love to hear it. Make sure to check the description box down below for links to the contest / giveaway, as well as links to all of my social media. If you follow me, I will follow you back.